Welcome to Purpose or Delusion. I am your host, Brendan Foery. This podcast is designed to spark thoughtful conversations with people who are actively working in the entertainment industry. The following guest is an example of a creative, self-sufficient problem solver who is obsessively devoted to their craft. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, for sure. This is Jason Boule, and tell me about yourself. What do you do?
Okay, well, I'm a songwriter and music producer. I basically moved to LA less than 2 years ago, about a year and a half ago. Quit my job working at Google doing audiovisual, and I was just like super depressed and not feeling it after a while, even though it was like an amazing job. My coworkers were all awesome, but my heart's always sort of been focused on music. That's what I went to school for, sort of, was audio engineering and all that stuff.
School?
And Expression College for Digital Arts in the Bay Area, Emeryville.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, it was like an audio engineering program, but they kind of touched on like the music theory and music production and all that stuff. And we did like live sound, music for video, and then recording lots of bands and stuff like that. But I kind of did all this stuff and tried a bunch of different things. I worked in the music industry in several different ways before I like kind of realized like I actually just like creating the music, versus like the other stuff that's on the outskirts of that stuff,
right.
Working alongside musicians and stuff. I like the creation process and, seeing an idea come to life. And
at what point did you get into music originally, just in any capacity?
Okay, so basically when I was a kid, I grew up in the Bay Area. My father played guitar, and I found like one of his acoustic guitars in the closet, and I was like, "Dad, you play guitar? That's so cool! Like, you gotta show me." So he'd like get out his guitar and start playing again, and like he hadn't played guitar in like 15 years or something, and so then I like asked for a guitar for Christmas. He bought me like an acoustic guitar, but I was like listening to Blink-182. I was like 9 years old or 10 years old, and I'm like, Blink-182 is awesome. I can't play Damn It on an acoustic guitar, and then they like gave me guitar lessons. I kind of quit because it was like my guitar teacher was like trying to get me to learn all these like I don't know, they're like real old classic songs that it was just like, I don't really care about this, like a 10-year-old doesn't want to learn how to play As Tears Go By, on guitar, the Rolling Stones. Like, it's just a different type of, like, now I enjoy that type of music, but it's just like
a different motivation.
Yeah, when you're 10 and you're just like full of energy and you're skateboarding and stuff, you want to play like Sum 41, you know what I mean? So I started, I started to get back into it again, because I was teaching myself with guitar tabs like how to play those songs that I like to do. So my parents got me like an electric guitar, and then for a while when I was in middle school, my dad and I actually took guitar lessons together from the same teacher. So we'd go to like his house in the next city over, and like I would have my lesson and then he would have his right afterwards. And it was like a cool thing. And then my dad would take me to a bunch of concerts, all that stuff. And so I just got like real deep into music around that time, and
just through osmosis.
Yeah, and then one of my friends from the same town, we started like playing together and like started a band and all that stuff.
Where did you grow up?
Pleasanton, Pleasanton, California. So cool. Yeah, Northern California, Bay Area. Yeah, it was cool. Just playing in bands and stuff. Went through different genres, like from blues and classic rock, and playing AC/DC covers, dressing up like them in the garage and videotaping ourselves. There's probably embarrassing videos out there that'll show up eventually. And then, then went through like the heavy metal and punk phase when I got angry, got way less mad at my dad, and then started going way into the pop realm and stuff like that. Yeah, but that's basically how I went. I just like went through all the different
phases. Phases.
Yeah, exactly. Phases of being an adolescent kid.
Did you realize at that point like I could actually do something with this, or was it just fun?
It was just fun. It was like, it was just something to do and like a way to like blow off steam, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so all that was kind of through high school?
Yeah, through high school. And then, like, I played in bands, like, a little bit after high school. Like, I played bass in metal band, you know, that played, like, in California and Nevada and stuff. And then, you know, I had another band where I'd play guitar and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Did you go right to college after high school?
well, I took classes at, like, a community college and didn't really, like, I, like, dropped out of classes and stuff. I just wasn't really into it. And I took a couple of classes over a summer at Berklee College of Music, but I really didn't like the really rigid music program there.
Yeah.
Like, I got it, you know, I was like, if I go here, I'll become, like, an amazing guitar player. But, like, the best case scenario, I'm going to be, like, a session guitar player. And it was just, like, I don't like learning jazz, you know what I mean? Like, I would rather, like, you know, write songs. And, you know, at the time I didn't really know that there was, like, the songwriting and production program over there. But yeah, I just eventually, basically, so here's how it really happened. How I got into the production side of things was I was working at Lowe's, the hardware home improvement store, and this guy Derek, who was also working the checkout stands with me, he was like, yo, I just, like, started making beats at home, you know, making hip hop beats. And I got this, like, setup, and he was telling me all the things that he got, like the interface and the monitors and stuff. I'm like, that sounds cool. Like, it's hard to keep, like, 5 people in a room every week to learn songs and practice for shows and all that, so let alone keep members interested in the band and stuff like that. So I'm like, this is something I can do alone and make music that's, like, you know, complete without anybody else, you know? So I got, like, this little home recording setup and started teaching myself how to make beats. And I'm like, oh, I can, like, record in, like, guitars and, like, record my, you know, fake Rob Zombie sounding music or whatever alone. And then eventually I was, like, researching, and I remember there was this, like, college, Expression College, that, you know, visited my high school. And so I went and, like, checked out the campus, and they, like, wow you with all these, like, SSL 9000 J series console and, like, all this stuff, and they're like, yeah, you get to work on this. And I'm like, there's a lot of buttons that I want to touch, you know. And so then I ended up going there, and it was cool.
Nice. How long?
It's like a 3-year program.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's different now. I know, like, they were bought out by SAE, so the program's a little bit different now. But basically when I went there, it was really cool. The faculty was great. They all, like, had cool industry experience, and they had, like, guest teachers from, like Jack Douglas, who produced Aerosmith, and John Lennon, and a bunch of crazy people. And so it was, like, a really cool opportunity to, like, get to learn from people who had, like,
real life experience.
I think they changed the rules there now because they're, like, because of the accreditation process or whatever. So, like, you had to have, like, a master's degree in order to teach there. So a lot of the teachers that were there when I was there aren't there anymore. But
wait, so in order to contribute from a teaching perspective, they had to first have proper education?
Well, we had an accreditation, but I think it was, I don't remember the specific rule, but because of them getting bought out by SAE, whatever the accreditation that they were getting versus Expression, you had, like, the teachers would have had to get a master's degree or have already had one in order to, like, keep teaching there. So I don't know exactly what the...
So they kick out the people with real life experience.
Yeah, exactly. It's like very counterintuitive in the music industry because nobody has, like, a proper education. Everybody learns by doing. But that was kind of, that's kind of how that went. But while I was in school there, you know, I was, like, getting involved in all these different things in the music industry, and you know, it was just, like, so exciting. Like, I didn't realize how close I was to, like, all these different things and how easy it would be to, like, dip my toe into it. So, like, while I was there, I did, like, live sound for a couple, like, venues and a church that, like, didn't really last that long, and then I worked at the Grammys at the Recording Academy, and I ran, like, their college level program, Grammy U. For cool. The San Francisco chapter.
Oh, sweet.
And that was really cool. After that, I worked at Live 105, and I was, like, on their promo team, and then transferred over to be a board operator for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
And interned at a couple recording studios at Different Fur in San Francisco, and then Jingletown, which was Green Day's studio, but I think that's gone now. So I did all these things basically, and it's funny because like I did all of these different jobs, and like cool, like I have all this experience making these connections, but I didn't really like any of the jobs. They were like not what it wasn't creative in any way, you know. It's just kind of like, you know, working alongside the people who are actually doing the fun stuff, you know. But it was like, I was grateful to be in that opportunity. I was like, you know, excited to be doing it, but it was just like in the back of my mind, it was like not what I wanted to be doing. And I'm also like in school full time and like sleeping 4 hours a night, and just ended up burning myself out kind of. Okay. So.
How old were you at that point? Like early 20s?
Yeah, early 20s. I started going to school there when I was like 20, turning 21. And then, I graduated when I was like 24, I think. And then, so after that, I basically quit the music industry for a few years. And I went into like the corporate audio. Just because you were so burnt on all. I was so burnt out on it. I was like, there's no way to survive in the Bay Area on like doing music really, because everything's so expensive. And I'm still living with my parents. And I'm like, I don't want to live with my parents forever. So I started doing work in like corporate audiovisual stuff. And then that allowed me to move out of my house. And I started living in Santa Cruz for a few years doing the audiovisual stuff, which was amazing. That place like changed my life because everything there is like so slow pace of life, and like people aren't stressed about stuff. Everybody's like, you know, creative people, and like, you know, doing things outside, all that stuff. But yeah, basically after a few years of that, I was depressed again because I was like not really happy. I'm commuting over the hill, you know, an hour to an hour and a half each way, and then working 40 hours a week at that job. And then I get home, I'm too tired to make music. The weekends, I'm either, you know, doing stuff that I need to for around the house, or, you know, random errands and stuff, and then not have time to make music. And when I did make music, it was like, you know, not that good because, you know, not in the...
You weren't investing time.
Yeah. Exactly. So, plus, like, you know, I liked pop music. You know, I got really into like the Max Martin era with all like Katy Perry and all that stuff, and like none of my friends there really do that. Like it's like very folk oriented scene, and or like death metal. You know, it's like it's very extreme, and like nobody, like I found one guy, Riley McShane, who like he made some pop music. He wanted to do that more. But he was touring in 2 death metal bands, like, you know, and so it was like, you know, we'd work when he was in town a little bit, but after a while it was just, it was like, kind of just like burnt out because there was like nobody to work with. So basically after that, I'm working at Google, which is like, you know, all these other jobs, it was like, you know, I thought I was depressed because, I'm not making enough money to live comfortably because California's expensive as fuck. And, you know, or my boss is like not chill, or like whatever. Like there was all these like different like reasons why I wasn't happy. And then all of a sudden I'm working at Google. My bosses are awesome. My other coworkers are amazing. I'm getting paid really well. I got great benefits. I get free food every day. I have like a free gym there, and
I've seen those offices. You know, they look so
it's fucking
cool.
Crazy. You know, it's amazing. But then after a while, I'm like, okay, so why am I not happy, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to my dad over the holidays, and he was like, I was like, I'm not happy, I'm depressed, I need to do something different, I don't know what it is, like, I kind of want to move to like Thailand for a year and just like fuck off and like try to find myself, or like that, or like maybe move to LA and like pursue music. And he's like, fucking move to Thailand, that's what I would do, you know, and like, I'm like, that sounds cool, you know. My mom's like, what the fuck are you telling me? Like, yeah. And then, basically I was making these tracks and collaborating with people online. And I sent a couple of them to one of my mentors from when I worked at the Recording Academy. And he's working down here as an engineer for a big producer. And he basically he was like, you know, the tracks are pretty good, but you know, you should be like if you really want to do this, you have to be in the room, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to like go to LA, do trips down, and like meet people, get into, you know, work with better writers and artists, and you know.
So you didn't go to Thailand?
I didn't. I wish I did, but
you wish you did.
I wish I did. Yeah, I mean, I still plan on doing stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I could always do that. Is what I sort of realized is that, you know, I'm getting older now. You know, I'm like.
How old are you right now?
I'm 29.
29. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So at this point, I'm like 27, 28. You know, and I'm like, okay, like I need to start figuring out like, do I actually want to try pursuing music? Because there's only so long that I'm gonna have like my finger on the pulse of what's happening in music, and how long that I'm gonna like feel relevant to what's going on. And like, so I had to start making a decision of like, you know, of all that. So I took my friend's advice, and I started doing trips down to LA and like putting myself up in Airbnbs for a weekend, or staying on friends' couches. Thanks, Greg. And you know, I'd meet some people and like work, and I'm just trying to like see like, will I even like LA? Like, am I gonna like doing this kind of hustle? Is this gonna make music less fun for me? And then eventually, like, I met this guy, Josh, because I started at this Airbnb, and his partner Devin was an artist, and I was like working with them a little bit. And the first day that I worked with him, I like made this song, and it was really like it was the best thing that they'd done since he'd been in LA for a few years, and like I got it done in a day versus like them working with producers for months and not getting shit back, you know?
Yeah. So
they ended up like, you know, helping me move down and like gave me a place to stay for a little bit. And then, so that gave me an opportunity and sort of like, you know, an easy place to land when I first came down to LA. And then it was just like, okay, like, do you want to move to LA, Jason? Here's a place to stay. Here's an artist to work with, and other places, artists that you can bring into their studio. Mm-hmm. And then, it just kind of gave me, it was like, okay, this is my choice. The universe kind of opened that for me. And it's like, don't fucking move, you know, out of the country. If you really want to do this, like, here's how, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of when I moved to LA. And then from that point, like, I had just saved up money. And so now it's just like figuring it out and trying to like, how do I make this work and not have to get a normal job again?
Right.
So that's what I've been doing the last like year and a half.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Because you had mentioned like working at Google, doing all the other stuff, like you just weren't happy and you were depressed.
Yeah.
And are you happy now?
I'm a lot happier. Yeah, for sure. But it was interesting because, and this is the part where I might get a little bit emotional, because like the week after I moved to LA, I found out my dad was sick with cancer. And unfortunately, it was like only 4 months before he passed away after that. And, you know, obviously my dad was like, you know, this very influential person in my life. And the only reason I do music is because of him, you know? Mm-hmm. So now, you know, as that created a lot of like, you know, anxiety and depression while he was sick, because I'm like worried. And now it's like, I still am very sad that I don't have him, but like I feel like I have a different purpose now, because I want to make him proud, and I want him to like, you know that I'm successful one day, you know what I mean? Like I want it to be like for a purpose that like, you know, all of those years of like him paying for guitar lessons and, you know, all that stuff kind of, and him helping me get through college and paying for that stuff. And, you know, I want to make him proud, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
And I know he was always supportive of everything you doing in music.
Definitely. And like he's like, you know, if you like what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, you know? Yeah. So it's like, you know, he pushed me to do all that. And like, you know, when I was like talking about quitting Google and pursuing this or doing something else, he's like, fuck it, do it, you know? He's like, when I was your age, I did crazy shit. I moved to Alaska and worked on the pipeline just because it was like a weird, fun adventure, you know?
That's awesome.
And my mom's very supportive as well, you know? But like my dad, like, he just lived that way. So he really, like, he was like the big person that like really pushed me in that way, you know? So, but yeah, so now like that's kind of, it's been both like last year was like the hardest and best year of my life in weird ways. Like it was like, I don't know, it is what it is, you know, it's like you can't really change, you know, somebody getting sick. But now like I realize why I'm here sort of, and I'm living more purposefully and like trying not to waste time or, you know, all that stuff. And I feel like I've definitely found my path in a certain way, but I just have to like navigate it just like everybody else does. But I'm very much happier now because I get to do my favorite thing in the world every day, you know. And it's a big maze and a puzzle trying to get through it, but it's just I'm here, I'm doing it, you know. I have not much to complain about because I get to make music every day, you know.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're running out of time?
I mean, we all are, right? Like we're all gonna die one day. We don't know when that is, you know. Like you could get hit by a bus tomorrow, you know. Like everybody, we all have like a ticking clock, and we don't know when that ends. You know what I mean? So it's like we should all be living in the way that, you know, like as if we don't have that much time left, you know. But like my dad passing away was a wake up call, you know, because I know he wasn't ready, you know, to go. Like he didn't get to make that choice, but you know, all of a sudden he had this ticking clock, you know. And so that was a wake up call for me. It's like, okay, like what if I got sick? You know, what if I had something happen that like made it so I couldn't make music, you know? And I made a post about this on Facebook the other day that, you know, just basically was talking about that, like, you know, don't wait to start doing something if that's what you want to do, like, because you have one life. You don't want to like look back and regret not trying to do something, you know what I mean? Because I've known since I was a kid that this is what I want to do with my life in some capacity, from like when me and my friend Don were dressing up like Angus Young and, you know, Brian Johnson of AC/DC and recording ourselves playing Highway to Hell in the garage. Like that was like me envisioning this life of like making music, and like now I would like have this opportunity to be here and be doing that, and I don't have to like, you know, waste my time commuting an hour and a half each way, you know, and then working at this job that doesn't really like do anything for me creatively. I have the ability to be here and be working towards my dreams every day, so I'm stoked to be here, you know, and I get to work with so many fucking talented people, you know, and like I get to be inspired every day by like this girl sent me the song the other day and she's like, yeah, I want you to produce this, and I'm like, thank you, like that's so amazing, like this is like one of my favorite songs I've ever heard, you know what I mean? And it's just like, you know, getting that opportunity to do that and help this person like take this song and like, you know, flesh it out into like what they're hearing in their head, you know, and like that might help them in their career, you know, and it's just like an amazing thing to be able to do, you know. And then, you know, hopefully one day like these songs that I'm working on will get to reach like a lot of people and like help other people through like a hard time or something, you know. That's like, I don't know, I think it's just amazing. So yeah, it's hard to be like depressed, you know. Yeah, I have had those moments, but yeah, it's like hard to like not like see this for like what it is, like a opportunity to do something that I love every day, you know.
So what is like what's your ceiling? Do you have a ceiling? What's your main dream? What's your goal?
I mean, you know, one of the things that I realized from working at Google was like I was very comfortable there, and like money and all that stuff wasn't really an issue. So like that made me realize like not being happy with that was that I'm not at all like really motivated by like financial reasons at all. Like I want to like keep moving forward and like keep, you know, exceeding my own like accomplishments and stuff like that. But really the goal is just to like be able to keep making music and keep like, you know, helping people get their story and their messages out there and stuff, and just trying to reach more people with that. And it's kind of just like a fun challenge just to see like what kind of things can happen. Like since I've been here, I've gotten songs on the radio, which is like just a crazy thing to me. It's like I never dreamed that would happen. And getting to listen to my song like through my car stereo is like crazy. So I just that's like one thing that's happened. And it's I want to see what else I can do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
always pushing the boundaries and.
Yeah, I mean, for right now, that's like kind of where I'm at. Like my goals will probably change a million times as I achieve different things, and maybe I'll get bored of working with artists, and I'll want to compose for movies or something. But like for right now, it's just like being able to keep doing this is like all I want to do.
That's awesome. What's been one of the greatest lessons over this kind of decade of you from college, working at Google, Grammy stuff, all of this stuff? That's a lot of experience, and that's a lot of, I'm sure you learned a lot of life skills as well as like skill-based skills. But what is kind of one of the biggest takeaways you have from that time?
Well, I'd say like probably the biggest thing for me is just like I don't like being comfortable. I think I like being in a place where I don't know. I think when I'm comfortable is like when I'm depressed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's like when I am not sure. Like I don't know. Like I want to always feel like I'm challenged and that I have like an opportunity to learn. Which is why working with artists is really cool, because like everybody has their own influences. Everybody has their own sound that they want to go for. So I'm always like challenged of like how am I gonna get combine all these different types of artists into like this person's brand or whatever. I'm never like afraid to try different things. That's why like when the opportunities came up to work, in broadcasting or work in, at the Grammys or work, do all these things, it's like, that's a cool uncharted territory for me, and so that's kind of where I always want to be, is in that like uncharted territory where I get the opportunity to learn, and like I just like firmly believe that like we should all be like trying actively to like fail at stuff, because that's how you learn and that's how you get better, and that's how you that's just, I think you need to like test yourself. We're not here to just like have everything like laid out for us. That would make life super boring.
Yeah, we just talked about that. I think on the first episode we talked about, I was like, people need to fail more, and just because that's how you learn and that's how you grow, and that's life. Like you got to get used to failure. How do you stay in a place where you're constantly pushing yourself out of your comfort zone? Because for me, unless I'm held accountable by the people around me, it can be really hard to have that discipline to constantly be pushing myself and not fall into a place of complacency.
That's an interesting question. I guess for me personally, it's like I like to like research and like listen to lots of podcasts, or listen like watch stuff, production and mixing tutorials on like pro audio files or something, or like always like if I don't have something to do, I find something for myself to do, and a lot of times I like to just like experiment, and like now there's like new social media platforms like TikTok, which we were talking about, which is like okay, wow, I see like the potential for this to like really help people in a creative field. So like how do I think about this in a different way? And now I'm just like I have nothing to gain by becoming like a TikTok influencer, but it's like a weird challenge to try to find the code to crack that in from a music industry standpoint,
Right.
So it's always just looking for opportunities to like push myself into weird lanes that I haven't been in before,
Mm-hmm. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's just like, for me, it's just like a game. It's just like finding the new level,
Yeah. Did people back home, did you receive any pushback from people back home, family, friends, when you were like, I'm going to LA to do this music thing?
No, everybody was like super excited for me because everybody knew how passionate I was about music. The only pushback has been like my mom, who I've like had to ask to help me out with rent, like a couple months when I was just like really not getting enough work. And, I'm just hoping that like, one day I can look back and everybody will be like, he like struggled, but like he fucking did it, and he like pursued, it's interesting because like I went back to Santa Cruz and got to see a bunch of my friends recently. And one of my friends was like, oh yeah, we were talking about how you just like, you're fucking doing it. You just went to LA and pursued the thing that you're passionate about. And it's inspiring for me because it's like, I wasn't doing that, but now I'm like forcing myself to do that. And, I think it's interesting because like, a lot of people don't have the guts to like jump and just take that leap of faith. So a lot of people, when they see you doing that, and maybe I'm just lucky with the people I have around me, but like a lot of people, when they see that, they see something in themselves. And like, if they haven't done that, then like, it's like sort of like a reminder that you can always do that,
Yeah. And that's super cool because a lot of people, at least for me, I'm not gonna speak for other people, but it's kind of the opposite in some ways, where it's like, which is why this is called purpose or delusion. Like people literally were like, "Are you delusional, bro? Like you crazy going to LA?" And I think what you just said about you're actually doing it. Like a lot of times people don't realize, at least from a distance, like all of us who are out here living in LA, making music, acting, creating movies, like all of this stuff, we're actually doing it. Like there is a huge, massive level of success that's already happening. And just because there isn't the clout or there isn't like all the, whatever different types of fancy award shows or whatever it is that people perceive as success, like you're a working producer and songwriter in Los Angeles.
There's different levels to making it,
Yeah.
Like, if you're surviving creating your art, then you've made it.
That's massive.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I haven't had like a day gig in almost 2 years. Like any way that I look at it, like even when I'm like beating myself up because I like feel broke and I'm like barely able to get groceries or like whatever, like if I'm struggling, like I'm fucking doing it. I'm here. I'm living in LA, which is like a hard city to survive in. Yeah. And I'm doing it,
on your own terms.
So if like, I don't think it's a bad thing to have a day job. I think you should absolutely do that. If you're an artist down here, because that's how you afford yourself to be able to pursue your art and do that. A lot of like artists, you have to be able to pay producers and mix engineers, and then you have to pay photographers, and you got to pay for like somebody to make a lyric video or a music video or whatever. So like if you have a job, that's not a bad thing. You're still making it. You're making it happen. You're like doing what you need to do. So like I think like by being here, to work in a creative industry like this, you have to have a healthy amount of delusion. I think delusion is a good thing, because nobody ever has done anything worth anything by playing it safe. Anybody who's ever done anything that is remembered for decades or hundreds of years or whatever, like nobody did that by just playing the safe route and just going into the family business or like getting a normal job or whatever. If you don't know what you want to do and like your goal is to like make a great living and have a family and do that, that's an amazing goal and do it, but if your dream is to do something in the creative field or whatever, then you have to take risks and you have to struggle a bit until you like figure it out and get there. So I think delusion's a good thing, but because that's what keeps you motivating, keeps you going. And I moved to LA because I knew that it was going to be uncomfortable. I knew it was going to, like, being here is scary as fuck. Like like it's expensive. You're probably going to be homeless at some point, which I was, and you're competing against all these people who are the best at what they do from everywhere in the country, if not the world. And like, so I'm like looking at like kids like you who like come here and are like great producers and writers and stuff. And it's like, okay, how do I keep up with this kid who's had a laptop and made music since he was 12? You know what I mean? Like, I can't compete with that, you know? So, but I have to, you know? So it's just like, it's that fire under your ass that makes you do it, you know? So it's like, I'm fucking delusional as hell, you know, being here, you know? It's like, why would I move here, like, when I'm almost 30, you know, and, like, just now start to do this, you know? And I think that I'm going to be able to compete against the kids who have been doing this and, like, were born with a laptop in their hands, you know? Like, it's crazy, you know? And it's, like, insanely competitive. Literally, the best people from all over the country are living here, and a lot of them have their parents paying their rent, you know? And so it's like, you know, you have to be delusional to a certain extent. I think that's a good thing to be, and like, you have to like be real with yourself at a certain point, you know, and it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to get a job as well, and maybe I need to like, you know, put my eggs in multiple baskets, but at the same time, it's like, you know, if you really believe in yourself and you really have a dream, it's just a matter of time, you know, until something happens, you know, and if it doesn't, then it doesn't, you know, but you...
And at least you were happy with the process.
Yeah, I think that's, like, the most rewarding part, because you find out a lot about yourself along the way, and, you know, if you don't make it, then you know, you tried, you know, you're not going to live with regret, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is, like, is it delusion, or is it just, like...
avoiding regret?
Yeah.
Something I really admire about you is your ability to build relationships authentically. Like... just, we've never worked together, we've met a few times, but like, you have something about you, there's like a gravitational pull towards you. You're just kind, you're authentic, you're in social media circles, but also just like at events and stuff that I've seen you at. And what are you just naturally like that? Is there something that like, you just want to put others first before yourself?
Well, thank you, first of all.
Yeah.
I think, well, I learned a lot of that from my dad, you know, who, like, he was friends with the guy at 7-Eleven, you know, and he's my buddy, you know, it's like, you know, so I learned, you know, from, you know, being a kid to, like, treat everybody equally, and, you know, everybody has value and stuff, and, you know, to me, it's like, moving to LA humbles you, too, and just being in the music industry humbles you. Like, somebody who I worked with at in the Grammy U program, he was a Grammy U student when I was the rep. After I left, he became the Grammy U rep, and then now he's making music videos for, you know, bigger artists and stuff that are playing in Times Square and stuff. My other counterpart, you know, from the Grammys, who was in Chicago, now is working at Interscope, pretty high up, you know, in the marketing department, and you know, he knows everybody over there. You know, it's like, you don't know, like, where these people are going to end up. Everybody's going to have value, and it's not, like, about getting something back. It's just, like, you want to maintain relationships with people, because, like, people are going to be in many different places. You know, there are people that I know that are not in the music industry anymore, but can still help me in other ways, you know, and, you know, I can obviously, like, help them in different ways, too. But it's just, like, I think the relationships that you have with people are just important in every area of life, because it just makes shit easier when you don't burn bridges with people, and you just like maintain a good rapport and stuff. And I think I also just like people, you know?
It's kind of what life is about.
Yeah. And I see you online, and it's just like, you seem like a fun, cool dude. And you also, like, you're close with Tori, who is like one of my real motherfuckers out here, you know? Like, I hope I'm allowed to swear on your podcast.
It's fine. We'll put the little E there.
Yeah. It's just like, I have a few people that I like really like rock with, and like, if you're cool with one of those people, then like, I already know you're an amazing person, probably, you know? But as far as like on the online stuff, it's just, you know, I just think it's better to be a positive person, and just like, one of the things that I've done since I've been to LA, and I had a coffee meeting before this, I get coffee or lunch or just get FaceTime with as many people as possible, just because, you know, I don't know, like, we're all like transplants here. We don't know people. Everybody needs to have their like family and their people here, and you never know like who's going to become your people, that even if you don't get something from them, maybe you just, you know, chat and you can relate on another more real level or whatever.
What about on the business side of the music industry? Like, things are rapidly changing right now. and have been over the last couple years, and with, you know, transition to streaming and record labels, like stuff going on with Taylor Swift right now. Like, I know you are, or I think I know that you're fairly involved in understanding what's going on in the business side of things. How are things changing for artists? What does that mean for songwriters and producers? How does it change for you?
Well, I'm not going to act like I'm like that I know everything about the music industry at all, but I've just, you know, I've been peripherally involved for, you know, almost a decade, you know, so it's, I watched like the whole streaming thing happen, and like at first I was like way against it because they don't pay artists very well, and obviously we're still like, we got the Music Modernization Act passed, that's awesome, but what I'm realizing is like the labels have like, they've secured their place in the music industry, but I think as an independent artist that shouldn't be your goal right away. Like, you need to prove yourself and prove your worth for a label to be able to help you, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the artists that are killing it with labels like Billie Eilish and stuff, like they proved themselves because they had connections that they'd made to blogs and stuff like that, who were able to like get their music out there. They had plenty of streams and stuff going on, and then all of a sudden the labels were like, oh, we can just like throw gas on this fire and turn them into like a superstar that's headlining Coachella within a year, you know? Like, it's a label's not going to help you. You're going to get shelved if you're signing a deal with a major label and you have no proof that you're going to be able to do anything, because they're going to be like, I don't really know. They're not going to invest into like, you know, creating your sound and your brand and all this stuff if you haven't proved yourself.
Yeah, you got to put in the front load all of that.
Totally.
To just have that, you know, boost of exposure, a little bit of marketing tactic or whatever, but you have to have the whole package.
They need to know what to do with you.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I just feel like so my friend Mark, he goes by Mars Today. He has a label that he's starting called Over Everything, which is basically starts for art over everything.
Oh,
so
cool.
like, he's not focused on, like, he's not trying to make money off of artists necessarily. Right. He's not trying to, like, you know, just sacrifice the art side of it to create something that he thinks that the labels want or whatever. He's like all about just doing the thing that's genuine and getting it out there. But like, his whole thing and the basis of how he's running his label right now is basically just putting out free information for artists, you know, and he's doing like these like educational workshops and, you know, showing people that you can do it independently, because he doesn't have like major label support. He has major label cuts and stuff, but he's like, he makes a living off of his royalties as an independent artist and awesome. Producer and stuff. And you can totally do it. It's just, I think you have to think about things differently and like, you know, big picture stuff. And what I tell artists too is like, what is your goal? Is your goal like sync licensing and stuff? Then you might want to produce your songs in a way and write your songs in a way that's going to get more syncs and stuff, you know? If your goal is like Spotify placements, then again, you'll like produce your songs more. Like, you might not even have that long of songs. Like, a lot of those big Spotify tracks are like 2 minutes long, because like you get paid after 30 seconds, and if they make it to the end of a 2-minute song, that's a lot easier to get, you know, more plays on Spotify than if you had a 6-minute song.
Right, and less skips too, because all that matters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like a lot of it is just like learning who your audience is. Once you know who like the more detail that you know your audience, the easier it is for you to like provide them what they want, you know?
Right.
And you got to experiment in order to figure out what that is. And one thing I heard Gary Vee say that was, quality is subjective, quantity isn't.
Yeah.
If you're like trying to build up your socials or put out music and stuff, just put out a bunch of shit and see what connects, you know? And then once you figure out what your audience actually likes and stuff, then you can do more of that. But like, until then, you just got to like put out a bunch of shit. We're in like, you know, this time in music where everything's super fast paced, and like, if you're taking 2 years to put out an EP, that's way too fucking slow. You know, you have to get stuff done and get it out there, because like, if you're in the music industry, you have to have music. I don't know, that's just the way that I see it, is just like, you got to experiment, you got to fail a lot, you got to like, you know, try shit out.
You got to do.
You have to invest into yourself, you know. The reality is, like, in the music business, it's an expensive industry to be in sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
But you have to, like, put that money back into your project. Like, if you have a gig, don't be going out and spending your money on, like, expensive coffees every day, or, you know, going, you know, to, like, some expensive, like, vegan cafe so you could put a picture of it on Instagram, or going to, like, buy some new car, cool, like, streetwear stuff. If you're doing that stuff and you can afford it, amazing, do it. Maybe that's part of your brand or whatever, but you could always return it after your photo shoots and invest the money back into your art in some way. Look at yourself as, like, a business and a brand, and trying to, like, you know, just keep perspective on that. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that was perfect. That was beautiful. Is there anything you would want to say for your future self in 10 years or 5 years or 20 years or something that you would want to remind your future self, whether, you know, he's crazy successful, or whatever has happened, what would be, like, a reminder you'd want to say if you could look back?
I don't know. Like, I would hope that after all of that I remember, you know, everything that, you know, I've, like, all of these different experiences that I've gone through, and all of, like staying grounded, and, like, remember, you know, the style of life that I learned in Santa Cruz that's very, like, you know, carefree, and just remembering to enjoy the moment and stuff and all that. You know, obviously remembering my pops, who, like, went through, you know, like, kind of, like, bestowed his love of music on me, and, like, maybe, like, that I can do that to other people and help people, like, throw gas on the flame, you know, if I see somebody who's, like, passionate, you know. There's been a lot of people in the music industry also that have helped me out tremendously, you know, bringing me into sessions, or, like, giving me free studio time or whatever, you know. So, like, if I'm able in the future to, like, offer that to somebody else, I hope that would do that, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say. Awesome. I hope I watch this in 10 years and I have the opportunity to remind myself. That would be awesome.
I hope so. I kind of see it as, like, we're creating a network, first of all, of creatives, and then also people will be able to look back and be like, that's where I was, that was my mindset, or this is, you know, where I was at. And I just think it's going to be a cool time capsule. Thank you so much for being on, bro. I appreciate your time, and we'll eventually write a song together at some point.
Yeah, let's do it.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Purpose or Delusion. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and also be sure to check out the previous episodes you may have missed. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week.